In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace a power steering pressure line on a Jeep Wrangler with a 2.4 liter located in the engine compartment. So the power steering reservoir is located right here on the coolant fan shroud. So we're going to take the fluid that's in there out, so it just makes a little bit less of a mess. So I have a little siphon hose tool thing, and I'm just going to see if I can take most of that fluid out. Now, if your leak is anything like this leak, quite a few bit of the fluid already came out. And I have a catch basin, and I'm just going to drain it in there. I also have a catch basin down below, so that's going to help anything that spills on the floor. I'm just going to put this on there to stop any dirt or debris from going in. So now we're all set, drained the fluid. We're going to move right over here. Right underneath the alternator is the power steering pressure line. That line goes right here into the pump. That's the fitting. So this is the power steering pressure switch. It's located always on the pressure line. We're going to disconnect that harness connector from it. So there's a tab here, just like this on the other side. So it's a squeeze on both. Squeeze and pull. Disconnect that. Now with my 16mm wrench, I'm going to start trying to turn this fitting away, counterclockwise. The wrench was spinning, so I'm going to use a 16mm crow's foot to see if I can get a good grip on this so I don't crush it too much. Just keep wheeling it down there until you feel you get a good grip right there. There we go. Now obviously we're replacing the line, so I don't care that it's going to probably break. That's why we're replacing it. As you can see, it's pretty rusted right here. Let's see if we can break it off the rest of the way. There we go. Now we can rest that aside. Take this crow's foot extension off. So now I'm going to break this line off. You can actually switch over to a socket if it breaks out clearly. If you're replacing a line, feel free to do this. It can make a nightmare turn a lot easier. So now I'm just going to pull my crow's foot out of there so I can get a wrench on, so I can spin that all the way around. Now, if your line is not as rotted as this and you're not replacing it, you're just removing the line for any reason, this should spin freely inside. And I'll show you with the new one exactly how it works and functions. But I'm just going to break this free and get this completely out of here. There we go. Make sure the O-ring, the old O-ring, is attached, because you're going to have a new one and you don't want that old one jammed in there. Now to access the steering gearbox, we're going to take this plastic off the front of the grill here. It's attached to the bumper frame. 3/8 or a 10mm socket. Take these two bolts off. And there's going to be two identical ones on the other side. Now just lift this cover up. So I have a catch basin below my steering gearbox, and we have two lines coming in. The bigger one, the highest one up here, is the pressure side, and that's the return side. So 18mm wrench. I'm going to break this free from that box. Now I could see a lot of dirt kicking up here, so I'm going to make sure this is loosened up enough, and I'm not going to take it off until I clean it. I don't want any of this dirt going into that steering box. Just make sure you get all around those threads and the line up here on the top. Once you're satisfied with that, continue disconnecting the line. And here she comes. So I'm going to grab that coolant reservoir and pull it out of the way. It's not a necessity, but it'll help you visualize. So in order to pull this up, see that little push part of the canister right there? And then it has 2 slots. So I'm just going to take a pry bar and push in on that while I lift up. Give it a little wiggle. There we go. Get that right out of the way. So the line goes up and around, and this is the curved part of it. I'm just going to pry it out. See if I can manipulate it to move a little bit. Just like that. I'm just going to bring it down. Now we can just grab the line and pull it straight up, hopefully. I guess it really doesn't matter if you pull it up through the engine compartment or down below, whatever works for you. So now we have the power steering pressure line off. I have it on a bench, and I'm going to take off the power steering switch to transfer it over to the new line. So the switch itself is a 9/16, and this little block is like a 5/8. So we're going to hold it steady and see if we can break it free. Go. Take the switch off, clean it up, and examine the O-ring. If it's torn or anything, replace it. If you want to just replace it, you find a good size one, accurate size, replace it also. Now I'm going to put the power steering sensor switch on the new line. I have an O-ring, thread it right in. You can put some white Teflon tape on there if you want, or actual paste. But with that O-ring, it's really going to do its job. It's going to stop any fluid from passing that fitting. So I'm going to snug it up, and then I'm just going to give it a little tightening. Nothing too overzealous because it doesn't have to be too tight. Just like that. So your new line should come with a plug in case you don't have a power steering switch, and 2 new O-rings, and also a cap. What I like to use the cap for is I'm going to put it on the line as I fish it through so no dirt gets up inside there. So now I put a boot on the end, like I said, so it stops any dirt from getting in there, and I'm going to start feeding it down. It goes down below the return line and then out through the front. Once I've got that pretty much angled, I'm going to get the new O-ring, and I'm going to put the new O-ring on the top and start it. So I'm going to put a new O-ring on it now, roll it all the way down to the base of it, let it seat. I'm going to guide this around, get it to start right in that pump. See how it's at an angle? You want to make sure you are straight on. Always tighten it by hand till you feel it start to grab. Always helps just wiggle a little bit till you get the first couple of threads. There we go. Now that's a 16mm wrench. I'm going to grab my wrench and just turn it halfway down because I don't want to have it rip out in any way, shape, or form. Just so I feel comfortable knowing that it's not going to pop out. I'll end up snugging it up once the front is in. That's good. So now I've raised the vehicle up and underneath it, and I've got to just keep manipulating this thing. There we go. Make sure that boot stays on. I want no dirt in there. Okay, so I'm going to bring it out this way, I think. go. That's about the right direction. It goes just like that. Now I can lower it and get it from the front. So there's my new line with that rubber boot on it, but I still don't like the looks of this, so I'm gonna just put a rag down there, see if I can make sure I can get all those grease chunks out of the way. Yeah, that's a nice work surface now. So I'm gonna grab the boot. Hopefully the line will follow. There it is. I'm gonna put the new O-ring on now that came with the kit. The reason why I put these on last is so they don't get damaged or pop off. That has happened many a times. There we go. So you gotta hold that line steady and roll that O-ring over, just like that. And we have to try to guide it with a little patience into the spot. So basically you just have to move your hand underneath over here, grab that line and manipulate it so that you can get it to go right into that spot. Now I'm going to put one hand underneath by that steering box and I'm going to pull up on this line so that I can get that fitting to center. And I'm going to try to start it by hand. And see how it pops out? It tells you that it's just not starting right. Looks like we got it. Still gonna hold on to that line because I want it to make sure it stays center. So the key is to make sure that this line goes under that return line. If you have to take the return line out, feel free to do that, but that line goes under the return line. And grab my 18mm, really give it a good snug. Now I'm gonna clean the area. So now that the end to the steering box is in, I'm gonna really tighten up the one on the pump side. That's my 16mm wrench. I'm gonna get my crow's foot so it doesn't round off. There we go. Now I'm gonna connect the pressure switch. So now you can put your coolant reserve tank back in. Just line up those pins and give it a push, just like that. Put your hose back on the radiator. So as you can see, it says use approved power steering fluid, check your manual. In this case, it does take full synthetic transmission fluid, and we're gonna fill this up and then run it and check for leaks. So after running it and turning the steering wheel, getting all the air out, we can see that we have no leaks, everything's perfect. So now we can put our cover back on, slide it down, line the bolts, holes up. .3/8 or 10mm socket, and we'll snug them up. And do the same to the other side. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.